you know, they're having those testing
Have a-
events
Yeah.
at the fairgrounds, and you have to
Tuesdays,
call and make an
There's
appointment.
budget meetings,
Yeah.
so I have
So,
to get
you know,
some
I
stuff
don't know.
prepared. Okay, good morning. It is 9 a.m. Are we ready to start? IT?
Yep.
Okay, well, I'd like to call the November 17th, 2020 meeting to order. Please call the roll.
Dave Line.
Here.
Soldner.
Here.
Bagwell. Here. Garza.
Here.
Pyrus de Carvalho.
Here, and before we do the pledge, I wanted to let everybody know that if you are on the Zoom call and you want to speak throughout the meeting, there are instructions in the chat box. We're asking that you raise your hand and then Todd will unmute. So with that, thank you, Linda. Let's get started.
Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge
Allegiance to the
flag
flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. This morning's prayer will be given by City Attorney Paul Brown. Thank you, Paul.
Would you join me in prayer? Heavenly Father, sometimes we don't know where to begin, but we need to remember that you're always there for us and that we can always come to you regardless of the challenge. And Lord, we pray that we'd be able to focus this morning on doing what's best for the citizens of Hutchinson, both the governing body and city staff. Lord, we pray for our people. This lingering disease has been a great burden. We pray for those who are ill. We pray for those who have lost loved ones. And Lord, we pray that we'd love our neighbors as ourselves. We pray that we would make wise decisions that benefit the health of all. Lord, thank you most of all for your Son, Jesus Christ. Thank you for your love and your mercy. It's in Jesus' name that we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Paul. Well said. So this is going to be a little bit different format, and I ask for everyone's patience. It might be a little awkward, but we're going to do our best. And big kudos to the IT department for setting this up. With that, we have next item, please.
Oral communications from the audience.
Okay, this is the time of the meeting where anyone in the audience is welcome to bring up an item that is not on the agenda. I know that no one's allowed in City Hall chambers, but if there's somebody on the Zoom call again who would like to speak, please raise your hand and Todd will unmute you. Limit your comments to 5 minutes, keep them respectful, and let us know if you are a resident of the city.
Hello, Teresa Delgado, 67501. I guess I kind of wanted to bring up some things from the emergency meeting from last week. I had a statement or a couple statements and a question, I guess. So you guys all were involved in that, right? I guess.
I don't think the council was specifically invited. I was ill that day and didn't attend that meeting or the other special meeting.
Okay.
Are you talking about the Human Relations Commission meeting or the Fun Valley meeting?
The Human Relations Commission meeting.
Okay.
With the city manager.
Other council members can chime in, but I was not on that call.
Okay, so I guess I just wanted to start out by thanking you guys for having that meeting. I had a couple of, I guess, concerns about it. One, we have more questions than answers now as to who is going to be taking, complaints or, acting as the HRO. Because now we have nobody, and I know that it was stated that the city manager sent out an email stating he is not going to take those complaints. So right now it's up in the air. Who is going to, deal with these issues? We need, I guess we really need answers on that. Like, how are things going to be handled? Another thing I wanted to bring up was, so it was stated several times that the BLM stuff and the Juneteenth events were not reasons why DeJada, I guess, was being investigated. but the city manager kept bringing, I mean, nobody but the city manager kept bringing that up. But he was stating that those weren't reasons. So, I mean, if they weren't reasons, then why were those being brought up? Because now at this point, the amount of times it was brought up, it just kind of sounds biased or discriminatory. So I wanted to address that too.
Okay.
That's it.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much for asking that. I have had some people reach out to me too about who is taking complaints at the city. I don't know if Jeff, you can touch on that or clarify who that person would be, who's acting in that interim position.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Yeah, we are continuing to take those calls, and we did have communication with the board during that meeting that would continue. I've also had written communications with the board that would be the procedure and that we would continue. So that's never really been in question. For anyone wishing to watch that meeting, it is available, and it will probably clarify a lot of concerns, misconceptions that might be brought up in the future. I would encourage anyone and everyone to watch it. Thank you.
And I did watch that meeting, but I was under the impression that you were taking the calls. So do people just call you directly?
Yeah, those calls would likely go through Linda first, and then
Oh, got you. Okay.
That's correct, Mayor.
So anyone who has a claim of discrimination is welcome to call the direct city number. You'll get Linda Ojeda, and she can direct the call from there. Is that the protocol?
That's correct.
And do you mind touching really quickly on plans for filling that position? I know you talked a little bit about that in the meeting, a 45-day kind of window and a committee that will be put together to help with that interviewing process.
That's correct, Mayor. It's our estimation that in approximately 45 days, we'll have that position put out. And I envision a process that would be very similar to what the city did last time, and having community stakeholders and individuals that would be representative of the various interests participate in that process.
Thank you. And do you have a feel for who would be asked to be on that committee yet? Or is there going to be a process to apply for that? Or will you just kind of put that together?
That will come later, and I'll make a recommendation as far as the slate of individuals to the governing body. I did assure the individuals on the Human Resource Committee that they would have opportunity to object, provide input into that process. My concern was that the entire board would want to be a part of that, and the group would probably become pretty large. So I think last time there were 2 individuals allowed from that particular committee to serve, and that would be my recommendation, to keep it the same as it was last time.
Okay. Thank you for those clarifications. I know it's going to be a really tough job to fill the shoes of Ojeda. She was an incredible asset to the community. So look forward to seeing what level of interest is there, and hopefully we can get somebody really seasoned and talented like she was. Okay, are there other comments on that item or?
No.
Okay, well, thank you again for bringing that up. Are there others in the audience who would like to address the council on items that are not on the agenda? Todd, do you see any? I'm not seeing any. I want to make sure that everybody has an opportunity to address the council if they'd like. Okay, hearing none, let's go to the next item.
Item 5, consent agenda.
I would move to approve the consent agenda and authorize the mayor to sign.
I second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there further discussion? Okay, hearing none, please call the roll.
Dave
Yes.
Soldner,
Yes.
Bagwell, yes, Garza,
Yes.
Tyros de Carvalho.
Yes, next item, please.
Item 6, public hearing to consider utility easement vacation at 902 Quarry Road.
I will move to open the public hearing.
Okay, is there a second?
A second.
Please call the roll.
Dave
Yes.
Soldner,
Yes.
Bagwell,
Yes.
Garza,
Yes.
Tyros de Carvalho.
Yes.
All right, good morning, Mayor and City Council, wherever you are today, so. Anyway, the city received a vacation petition from FT Enterprises LLC to vacate an existing 10-foot platted utility easements that's equally located on lots 3 and 4, Block A of the Airport Industrial Park 1 subdivision. The proposed, the vacation is for potential future expansion of the existing business located at 902 Quarry Road. So the required public notice and notification of interest of potentially affected parties has taken place. And for all those who had responded on this, everybody has approved the proposed easement vacation, utility easement vacation at this location. So to keep things moving, I guess we recommend, due to the responses affected by the parties, that the city council approve the proposed vacation of the existing 10-foot utility easement located between lots 3 and 4, Block A of the Airport Industrial Park 1 subdivision. So are there any questions? I can answer a couple, but we'll see how we go. Oh, but I was going to put the map up. So there's the location. It's on Quarry Road. It's First Team Enterprises there, and they're wanting to expand to the west. They're building at some point here in the future. So this is just kind of some of the initial things they have to get done to move that process along. So
Well, this is a great company that over the years has grown from a small startup company to what it is today with Wayne Underwood, and thank you for his investment in the community. Just a couple of sidebar questions. One, by chance, is the engineering department seen the site plan?
we have not yet.
Is planning seen that?
I don't think it's gotten that far.
It hasn't gotten that far?
I have had questions from some of the engineers in town that are working on the project, but I haven't gotten any, we haven't gotten any plans or site plans at this point.
Yeah, it doesn't become a zoning issue, it's just
I
reviewing
don't-
the site plan itself.
Yeah, at this point, I
Yeah.
believe,
Yeah.
correct.
And to your knowledge, is that utility easement, is that on Mr. Unruh's property
It is on. And
or on the lot line?
It's right along the lot line.
It is on the lot
Either
line.
side, 5 feet on either side.
Very
and,
good.
they own both of the properties in question, so.
Okay.
I did want everyone to know that Wayne is on the call if the council would like to hear from him.
Okay, that's good. I didn't know how that was gonna work, so.
He's probably cursing me for volunteering him, but
Probably saying things that might not be true, so I don't know.
Well, Wayne continues to build that company, and congratulations to you, Wayne, for your many, many years of perseverance in seeing the success that your company has had.
Thank you, John.
Now we have to close that in order for him to build over the utility property, right? So he can build over it?
That would be correct, yes.
Okay.
There's an existing fire line, but that's their private line that they'd have to take into account, but that'll go through as we move forward on the process, so.
Are there any
Well,
utilities that are affected by being vacated?
There's no utilities, no city utilities, or no, at least as far as when we've sent out the letters and asking for responses, we had no response, so. And it looks, as the locates look like on the information provided, Garber surveying, there's no utilities in that easement at this point, so.
Maybe for the benefit of the public, maybe Wayne, can you take a couple of minutes and just kind of give an overview of First Team Enterprises and what you actually do?
Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
yeah.
Okay. Well, basically, we're a manufacturer and distributor of sports equipment. Our primary focus is on basketball, along with volleyball, soccer, football goalposts, and we do a lot of protective padding in our upholstery shop as well. Our product line is rather bulky, and we basically run out of space. We'd like to expand to the west of us. We purchased the property about 6 months ago, and in order for our the new building to line up with the existing building, we had to have a little additional property from Superior Boilers so that we could maintain a 60-foot offset for building codes.
Okay.
What have you,
Any further questions?
Wayne, tell me what your employment levels are now and how you've grown the company.
Well, we've got 10 employees. We just hired another one full-time, and then we use part-time employees. We use members of the fire department on their days off to help us build backboards and package. We have plans to hire one more here in the next week or so, and that would leave us at 11 full-time and some part-time employees.
Very good.
Thanks, Wayne.
Sure.
Okay, are there other questions for Wayne, or is there anyone else who would like to comment on this? It is a public hearing. Okay, hearing none, is there a motion to close the public hearing?
I motion that we close the public hearing.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Further discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Dayline,
Yes?
Soldner,
Yes.
Bagwell,
Yes.
Garza,
Yes.
Tyros de Carvalho.
Yes. Next item, please.
I would move to approve the order vacating utility easement for 902 Quarry Road and authorize the mayor to sign.
Second.
Okay, was that a second?
Yes, it was.
Yep.
Okay,
Not here.
is there further discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Dayline,
Yes?
Soldner,
Yes.
Bagwell,
Yes.
Garza,
Yes.
Tyros de Carvalho.
Yes, next item, please.
Item 7A, consider bid results for Hutchinson Zoo electrical upgrades.
Good morning. I'm Justin Combs, Director of Parks and Facilities. As soon as my slideshow pops up, I'll get going. Anybody know any jokes for the... So this project really goes back for several years. Years ago we identified that we are completely out of capacities from an electrical standpoint at the zoo. When I say out of capacity, that means every single breaker box in every single building is completely full. We don't have any spare spots to put any additional circuits to add outlets or additional lights or anything like that. It's actually gotten to a point when we do our Christmas event that we actually have to unplug or disconnect one of our condensing units for our air conditioner, and then we have a portable panel that we plug into that so we can run additional Christmas lights for our Christmas events. So this project really kind of accomplishes two things. First is it adds that capacity for additional circuits. And I also want to clarify that we're not short of capacity as far as amperage goes. So we had all the calculations done We have plenty of power coming in to the facility from Evergy. We just lack the ability to have those circuits. So this project will basically create a sub-panel. There will be an exterior sub-panel. And we'll switch to some aerial photographs that'll help make a little bit more sense. But this is the visitor center here. So that external sub-panel will be just outside of the visitor center. And that will feed anything else we do in the future at the zoo as far as add circuits. It will also feed the lighted bollards. They're kind of the other component of this project. The primary reason for the bollards being lighted bollards is one is it gives us the ability to host evening events, which are primary fundraisers for Friends of the Zoo, or to host these events. We've had a lot of success with kind of these events that kind of meander through the zoo, and there's different stations, whether it's food or fundraising stations throughout. So this really gives us, opens up a lot more opportunities. And then we can do kind of after hours events, just come in and visit. Some of our animals are nocturnal, and so maybe we've got some special hours that are later in the day, and we can allow people to enter the zoo safely. Also, every other bollard will have a outlet on it, again for special events, so we can plug in Christmas lights or plug in snow cone machines or whatever it is for our events. So just a little bit better idea of where those are going. Maybe, there we go. So a sub-panel will be here, and then base bid has approximately 40 bollards that follow this primary path on the backside of the Discovery Center, and then kind of cut through around the koi ponds over to the otter exhibit. We are going to give ourselves a stub at the otter exhibit where we can expand if necessary. We will also have some bollards then that take this kind of secondary path along our domesticated animals, and then end up here kind of by the beginning of the ocelot area. And then we're getting a few then come up here to our playground. There's approximately 40 bollards in all. In the base bid, and the base bid also does include the installation of that new sub-panel. That new sub-panel isn't just going to power the bollards; it will power anything else that we need to do at the zoo in the future. So there will be plenty of capacity to add circuits to that sub-panel. Alternate one, and I apologize for the older photograph, but this is the best one I could come up with. Adds these bollards on the main walkway, and obviously we're missing the education building in this, so there's another walkway that comes about in here. So I believe there's 15 or 17 bollards on alternate one to provide a lighted entry as in the zoo. You can see these little black dots here along this path. Those are just Home Depot bought, stabbed in the ground, very cheap lighted bollards that just get kicked. We replace them basically for every event. We have to replace them. So this will give us a nice sturdy bollard for all of our evening events. Alternate two then is to bring a new service somewhere up into, we haven't identified the exact location, but in this northern train loop, would bring a new panel, a service drop from Evergy, so that we can do things like Christmas lights or other interactive activities along the train. Currently, we do not have any power up here north on the north train loop. Anytime we bring power, we actually have to bring it from home builders. There's a light pole, I want to say it's just north of where my pointer is, somewhere in there. And we've actually had to bring an overhead wire over the top and then set up a secondary temporary panel, to run any power needs we have up here for events. So that's alternate two. We did receive 5 bids for this. Bids were considerably lower than engineer's estimate. Engineer's estimate for this were about $115,000. So low bid was $84,000. I am not familiar with TB. They are a local contractor here in Hutch. I did a little bit of research, asked our inspection department. They've only had very positive things to say about them. The owners of TB are actually employees of two other local electric companies that have split off and gone out on their own. So I'm very confident in them. After doing a little bit of research with them, I think they'll do a fantastic job. The other thing I forgot to mention in my memo and in my slide is funding for this is through bonds that were approved a few meetings ago by City Council. So it is my recommendation to proceed with TB Electric for the full amount for the $84,105.38. So accepting both alternates. That is my recommendation to proceed with TB. And if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
These are LED lights, correct?
Correct. Yep.
So the consumption will be really low, yes.
Absolutely.
I know TB, they're a good company.
Good. Yeah.
So one other question, just trying my memory here, that one on phase two, are they gonna set another pole? They're gonna use that existing pole for that phase two?
They're going to bring it off that existing pole, and then we're going to have a new pole inside
Okay,
the fence, and then they'll put I guess a meter would go there,
right,
and then a panel there.
okay.
Yep, that we could attach to and do other things. Yep.
Sounds good.
An alternate one for the 17,000. That's just for lights on the walkway?
And outlets, yeah. Yep. So those bollards are relatively expensive. They're a very nice, sturdy bollard with the LED fixture. So those bollards should be there for 20 or 30 years.
Any other comments or questions for staff on this item?
How close are we getting our hiring a master?
That's a great question. And that's part of the reason why we were bidding this out, is because we knew the timing. This was going to fall about the time that our electrician retired. So, so yeah, I don't have an answer. I wish we had a stack of applicants we could be combing through right now, but we simply don't. So
And that's what's holding up the lights on the tower too, I assume, right?
yes, yeah,
Okay.
we don't have anybody that can do that work right now.
Did you want to do a little recruitment pitch while you're up there, Justin?
Yeah, if we have any masters electricians out there listening to the Zoom meeting, please talk to our human resources department. I'd love to talk to you. Spread the word.
Is there a motion on this item?
I motion we proceed with this, motion to approve the contract with TB Electric for the upgrades to Hutchinson Zoo for the amount not exceeding $84,105.38 and authorize the mayor to sign.
Okay, is there a second to that?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Further discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Dave Line?
Yes.
Soldner?
Yes.
Bagwell?
No.
Garza?
Yes.
Tyros de Carvalho?
Yes, next item, please.
Item B, discussion regarding Reno County Sewer Districts 201 and 202.
Good morning. My name is Brian Clinton. I'm the Director of Public Works. Reno County needs to make improvements to the wastewater treatment facilities serving two sewer districts, Sewer District 201 and Sewer District 202. Those are lagoon facilities. Both of them are located south of K96, so about 5 miles south of our wastewater treatment facility. So one of the options that they'd like to consider is pumping that raw waste directly to the city's wastewater treatment facility for treatment. We have looked at both the combined flow of both of those sewer districts, and it is small enough that it's not going to significantly impact.
Okay.
We've got plenty of capacity at the
Okay.
wastewater treatment facility to handle that flow. The county also sampled that wastewater, looked at total suspended solids and also the biochemical oxygen demand. None of those numbers were a concern. Again, our treatment plant has the capacity to handle the strength of the wastewater from those two sewer districts. So really, what we're looking for is just some guidance from the council on a couple of questions, because before the county invests in an engineering study to look at alternatives, they just want to make sure that, one, that the city would be open to accepting that flow from these two sewer districts. So that's really the first question, is would we be willing to take in that flow? And then if so, the second question comes down to cost. And what might the city charge for that flow? And just for some of that information, I put in here the rates that our customers pay, our city customers pay, and those folks that are outside the city, what they're paying for an average amount of flow, which is about 500 cubic feet a month. And then I estimated what that charge would be for those county sewer districts. And on the phone or on the Zoom call is Jared Brooks with Schwab Eaton. They're the engineer for the county, and also I believe Don Britton, who's the public works director for Reno County. And I know they've got some questions, and I guess really we need direction on the first one. Is the council open to accepting the flow from sewer districts? And Jeff, I don't know if you have anything to add.
I do. This gets a little bit philosophical for us because while I'm a big proponent of a regionalistic approach to solving problems that benefit the area, this is one where we have to recognize that our current customers have really built in the capacity that we're talking about selling off. And depending upon the pricing that's going to be discussed or favored, if that's an area that the governing body wishes to go, we want to make sure that we're doing several things. One, not offering it out at an expense that's lesser than our current customers, because frankly, that's just wrong. It's something that we will have to continue to service and support as the years go forward. The other issue we get into, again, pretty philosophical, but it's one of economic development and the principles that coincide with that. And what allows us as a city to recruit and promote large-scale development is the fact that we do have a sewer system that'll support that. And if you covet that and you value that highly in a competitive fashion, you use that as one of your biggest tools and resources in bringing and recruiting business and industry to your community. When that service is extended to surrounding areas, you then put yourself in some degree of competition with those other jurisdictions, potentially grabbing and maybe taking advantage of a utility that your customers have built and afforded over time. So I'm not coming right out and saying I'm opposed to it, but these are some items that are worthy of discussion as we take this on. Their expense and determining whether or not this will even pencil out for them, we're guessing, but that could be a $20,000 or $30,000 study for them. I'm just guessing. They do have other options that are available to them that they could explore, but I would want the governing body to be aware that you're kind of putting yourself in competition with our existing resources to a certain degree going forward in future years. So I'll rest with that. Thank you, Brian. Brian and I have discussed this. I don't think it's a shock to anybody that we're going to talk about this, but
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, I've got a few questions, Brian, as well, and I appreciate your observations on that. Just, I guess some basic questions for discussion purposes. In Reno County, are there other sewer districts that are using the wastewater treatment plant in Reno County?
Our wastewater treatment plant?
Our wastewater treatment plant, other
No.
sewer districts?
No.
So this would be a first.
Yes.
Okay. Can you or Don Britton perhaps share what the other options are that they're looking at, other than the one you've presented?
Right. Don or Jared, would one of you like to speak to that?
go away.
Jared, go ahead and answer that, would you please?
Okay, very good. Can you guys hear me?
Kind of.
Hello?
Yeah.
No,
We can hear you, but the volume's pretty low.
Pretty faint, yeah.
Is it any better now?
No.
Oh, bear with me one second. What about now? Can you hear me now?
That, now, you're getting closer.
Is it any better?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, may have to hold my headset a little awkwardly here. But first off, I want to thank Brian Clinton for bringing this item forth this morning, and I also want to thank the City Council for having us be a part of the meeting. My name is Jared Brooks, and I'm an engineer out of Schwab Eaton in Manhattan. And also on the call is Stuart Porter. He's a fellow engineer out of our Beloit office, as well as Don Britton, Public Works Director for Reno County. So I guess to get on with your question is the Yoder Sewer District and the Habit Sewer District each have 3 cell lagoon facilities, which have a number of deficiencies that I won't get into the minutia at this point. But we do have options with repairing each facility to bring them back into compliance with current standards and regulations. So we have kind of an option of repairing each facility individually, as well as we have another option that we've looked at in combining the 2 facilities into a joint use facility for the county, which would combine the flow from the Yoder and Habit sewer districts for treatment at the existing Habit lagoon facility. So we have looked at those alternatives, which, as you would imagine, appear costly, which has kind of led us to the point of looking at other possibilities, of which would be sending the wastewater or possibly effluent for treatment at the City of Hutchinson wastewater treatment plant.
Okay. Another follow-on question. If for some reason we would agree to approve this, receiving their wastewater, their effluents, I assume there would be some kind of an interlocal cooperation agreement. And my question is, who would that agreement be with? Would it be Reno County, or would it be the sewer district itself, or where would that jurisdiction lie, and who would the agreement be with?
That's a good question, John, and I'm not 100% sure. My hope is that it would be with Reno County. But Don Britton, is that
Yes,
something
it'd be with the Board of Reno County Commissioners.
Did you hear that, John?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
So in order for them to do this, they would have to construct pipelines from their lagoons all the way to the wastewater treatment plant.
That is correct.
And that certainly cannot be inexpensive.
No, I think that will be costly. I don't have a good feel for
Yeah.
what that cost would be, but it's 5 miles of pipeline and a pump station. They would
Okay.
have to.
So does that become a benefit district to do that, or how is that funded?
Well, evidently, they're gonna fund it from charging the residents.
Yeah, I know, yeah. But through a benefit district and a defined benefit district?
Don, is that something that you could answer?
It would still be, the cost of those would be equally divided amongst the users between the 2 sewer districts. They would still, if we combine them, of course, then it'd be from 1 sewer district, but right now it'd just be, based on the cost of that would become from the 2 sewer districts, the cost of that project, just as it would now. Even if we don't pump it to the city, if each sewer district repairs their own sewer system or we combine it, then that'll have to be, paid for out of those separate sewer districts.
I know you're waiting for engineering studies, but do you have any cost estimates as to what these options are? On what those costs?
Well, we've already done the engineering study on the, us rehabbing them separately or joining them. And the exact cost estimates. I don't have that right now. And when I had that meeting, then, you know, the possibility of the city of Hutchinson taking this on was just another thought that I come up with, and I just wanted to explore it. And then after we see what your cost would be, if it's a possibility, then we'll see what best fits these people out here that they can afford. And that's where we're at.
Yeah, so I echo a lot of what the city manager said. At one point, we'd almost have to have an agreement if we were to take this on that would lower our costs of sewage to be more competitive. We'd have to offset in some way. You would have to the cost to benefit, right? So when the city manager talked about capacity availability and using that to recruit businesses, if we lose part of that, are we gaining anything in possible reduction of costs? Or are we just losing the capacity with no gain of possibly maybe having cheaper sewage? That's my question.
From my understanding of this, there's approximately 100 customers or less. They have some commercial customers down there. If I was in a management role down there and I've got attachment to a sewer that has sizable capacity, I would then go into the recruitment business of some smaller, maybe manufacturing, some industrial application that I don't currently have the ability to market.
Yeah.
So as far as their existing customer load, I think it's small. They do have one customer that concerns me a little bit. It's not a big deal. It's a slaughterhouse. That's not even an accurate description of it, but they
Processing plant.
processing operation.
Yep.
I'm just saying, what's the Hutchinson's benefit? Like, so our cost is that we're gonna lose some capacity, which would then make us less competitive. What's our benefit? Do we get, what's our benefit to it?
There is none, not to the city of Hutchinson.
Well,
Okay.
I might offer another thought. I appreciate everybody's concerns, and I think that we definitely need to take those into consideration. But I think there is always benefit in the eyes of the public to collaboration between taxing authorities, because ultimately, the taxpayer doesn't care, or the ratepayer doesn't care if it's if they're getting hit from the county versus the city, if that makes sense. I don't know. I think that there is benefit in trying to maximize that resource. I appreciate that we may need it in the future, but I always think it's good to keep an open mind when it comes to working with the county or other communities surrounding us, to see how we can meet the needs of constituents in this area. So I just wanted to throw that in there, that I think we've had a good working relationship with the county, and I would like to see us take that request into consideration pretty strongly.
Well, this is a far out thought, and I know this is a fairly broad, wide sewer district out at Habit, but one possibility would be, and gulp after you hear what I'm going to say, is that perhaps this would be an appropriate step for annexation of that whole district into the city of Hutchinson and expand our tax base.
I second that. Then we can agree to this. That'd be a benefit.
I mean, I know that's a huge, huge step, but let's look at it from a practical side in terms of the upside. If you're looking for benefits,
Yeah.
We would expand our tax base. With that comes services and all of that. I get all of that, but they're an adjoining area that has a commercial and industrial base that may be appealing to
That's
the
close
community.
to a highway. That's close to Wichita.
I had to put my camera on to show the joy of that comment.
I think we know how well that'll go over.
Just to let you know that at the Yoder district, there's 69 hookups, and at the Habit, there's 32. So there's a total of 101. Yeah. And just so you have the accurate information, at Yoder, there's 49 residential hookups, and there's 16 light commercial, and there's 4 heavy commercial with a total of 69. And at Habit, there's 24 residential, and there's 4 light commercial, and there's 4 industrial, for a total of 32.
Brian, you don't see any problem with taking this on capacity wise, or?
Right, we've got plenty of capacity at the plant right now to take on the flow that they have right now.
How much does that limit our capacity?
It really doesn't limit our capacity at all. It's about 0.5% of our total capacity that we're using right now. So a very small, really, amount.
Well, as far as the rate, I guess I would subscribe to being consistent with our current policy that if we were to charge, we would charge the rate that outside customers currently are being charged. That
Yeah,
would be my view.
I would concur there.
I can get behind that. I also wanted to mention that there's a lot of crossover for people in those commercial and industrial jobs in that area, that a lot of those people probably are from Hutch. And so there is benefit to the community in taking care of those businesses. Maybe not so much the residents, but the businesses for sure.
Yeah, one of my concerns long-term, and it has nothing to do with this particular district here, but we have adjoining developments, Willowbrook, Highlands, other adjoining sewer districts that concern me that if we were to proceed with this particular one, perhaps there would be others that would say, well, me too. And that would really concern me based on our current capacity.
Whatever
I can't imagine
would
from
be
a
jobs
residential
wanting to-
standpoint.
I'm sorry. We all
No,
went
go
once.
ahead, Sarah.
Sorry. I said my concern is about maybe manufacturing wanting to go to Yoder or these other districts instead of in the city limits of Hutchinson.
And I think that's a good point. You know, and the agreement, if we decide to go down this path, I would think that the agreement would need to state something along the lines that the city of Hutchinson needs to have overall approval before any connections or any additional customers are added to the district, especially a large industrial or commercial user, that we would have final say on that.
I agree that it can be crafted with language to protect our interests. And I think the difference between this sewer district and some of those others like Willowbrook is that a lot of those others are strictly residential.
Whatever
I don't know that they would. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, whatever happened with Blue Spruce, Brian? They repaired their system, right?
I believe they did, but Dawn would know the answer to
Okay.
that better than I.
Yes, they have a system that's just repaired 2 years ago, and then Highlands has an all-new system that was just installed a year ago.
Okay.
And I appreciate you thinking about this and stuff. And on the rate and stuff, we'll just have to see how that works out, because, you know, we'll also, above and beyond what your rate will be, we'll still have technicians. We still have to take care of all the infrastructure of both locations and all that too. So we have to add that on top of whatever your rate would be. So, you know, of course, our rate, it should be, and everybody's rate should be to where it takes care of future repairs, infrastructure, the repair to maintain it now, and for the operators. We would still have to have all that, and plus tack your rate on top of it. So it's a big deal. It's a head scratcher.
Hey, I don't know if that provided any direction or if there's any consensus. It's a yay or a nay.
I'm a nay.
I've still got questions. I'm not convinced that maybe the other options need to be explored further.
Okay.
I just think it's gonna be an expensive proposition for the county to construct the infrastructure that it would take, but I don't know.
Well, what that would cost and what your fee will be, and determine what the other two would cost, which we've looked into. It's all expensive, and that we're just getting all three options and see what works best for those people out there. And I would rather, even if your cost and to build this and pump it here was equal to one of the others, I'd rather have that come here than to deal with the two separate ones or trying to make that work, and then possibly have to irrigate, which is always kind of an issue, or emergency discharges. And that eliminates all that, and eliminates that headache to those people, or when you're emergency discharging into a water area where somebody's not liking that, it eliminates all that. So that's why I'm looking at this option that would eliminate that, and that would be huge.
And I did see that, is it Spencer? Did you have, Stuart? I'm sorry, Stuart.
Yeah. I'm Stuart Porter with Schwab Eaton. And like Jared said, I do appreciate everyone's interest in taking this issue on. I'd like to quickly piggyback onto what Dawn was talking about relative to the overall cost of sewer service to the end user. There's no doubt that this project will be expensive from an infrastructure standpoint if the sewer districts were going to pump their wastewater to the Hutchinson wastewater treatment plant. But the thing that I would like to say to the council is that your sewer rates, whether it be inside the city limits or outside the city limits, those sewer rates also include collection, pumping, administration, and those types of costs. So if the sewer districts were to be charged the referenced roughly $5,600 per month or $8,900 per month, depending in the county or in the city, out of the city, those will be pretty expensive wastewater treatment costs relative to the type of facilities that we're talking about. So from the sewer district's perspective, if the decision were to be made that wastewater treatment was going to be $8,900 per month, I can almost certainly tell you that the cost is going to be prohibitive when we factor in the cost of the pumping infrastructure, the piping infrastructure, and the existing collection systems that each of these two facilities have to maintain. So if that makes the city council's decision easier, I just wanted to throw that information out, because if the thought is that from the city's perspective that we've got to collect $8,900 a month in order for this to be beneficial to the city, I am pretty certain that at $8,900 a month for the actual treatment component, when we add all the other costs in, it's going to be cost prohibitive. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it
Yes,
does.
thank you.
Yeah.
So I guess that leaves us with a recommendation that they explore further the rehabbing or the joining instead of the wastewater treatment option.
I wouldn't like them to waste their money on exploring an option that probably would be too expensive. Because I think we would want that rate, and I wouldn't encourage them to continue going down that avenue and wasting money if it's not really a feasible option.
Well, I've been thinking about this. I think where Brian says we got the capacity and he doesn't see a problem with it, I think we should work with our neighbors, if all possible, because we all got to live here. And I think myself, I think we should, I would like to see us work with Reno County if we can. If we have we upgrade, if we went to this adventure with the county and we need upgrades later on, would they be charged or halfway charged with upgrades or anything like that?
Yeah, again, we would have to negotiate that in an agreement or come up with an agreement that was mutually acceptable to both parties. But I would see that if our customers are having a rate increase, that the sewer districts would
Rate
have to
increase on all we have to spend to fix up something, okay?
Right.
So we're not just taking it on by ourselves, they're gonna have to take the cost on it too, correct? I don't know, I think we should work with our with the county if we can, and if Mr. Clinton thinks we can do it, then I don't see a problem with it. I know we have looking at, our city manager's looking at our future. We're not gonna get to our future unless we work together. And our future is with Reno County, and we need to work together somehow, some way to get, and I believe we need to work together somehow get that. I don't know if I'm really confusing you, but I think we need to work with them.
I would agree with Steve, but I don't know that we have consensus for that direction. So I don't know where that leaves us. This isn't a formal action item, it's a discussion item, so we need to kind of have some sort of consensus.
Well, I think if there was consensus that the rate would be the outside the city rate, then that almost makes the county's decision.
I would agree though on the rate.
Because
Yeah, I'm afraid I would too.
That I think is the baseline right there, is
Okay,
outside rate.
okay,
Mayor,
Wow.
can I jump in for about 45 seconds?
please do.
Typically, you see this a lot with water, with production facilities that go outside and provide water to outside jurisdiction. It's very common. It's less common with sewer as far as going 5 miles out. You know, if you're a direct adjacent neighbor, certainly that's more frequent. But in excess supply agreements, you typically see a breakaway from local pricing because there's the ability to actually cut off and sanction the amount that's distributed at any time, and that's contractually provided for in those agreements. So at that point, you're not dealing with customers at every single meeting that are upset because an adjacent jurisdiction's getting cheaper rates than they're getting, because you do have the ability at that point to reduce the amount of outflow that you're selling to them. Now, sewer's a different business. You can't just arbitrarily you know, cut somebody's sewer valve off. That's a whole different discussion.
Take this much.
So you'll see in some of those agreements where there are some similarities to this discussion, but as far as our scale of pricing, I think that clearly has already resonated with the governing body this morning that we need to uphold pricing. That is really the only scenario that you see with reduced pricing is on those excess supply agreements or where production costs have been completely pulled out and removed as part of that equation. And to my way of thinking, that wouldn't necessarily be the case here. Thank you.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, it seems like there's consensus on that out of rate or out of town rate anyway, so that probably provides adequate direction to you. Is that fair, Brian?
Yes, I believe that's
Okay.
fair. Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you so much. And let's move on to the next discussion item.
Item 7C, discussion of 2021 health and dental insurance premiums.
Tom was here, but I don't know where he went.
He probably just stepped out for a second. I'm gonna go wave him in.
I think I hear him.
Good morning, Council. Tom Sanders, Human Resources Director. Last meeting, you guys wanted me to get back with you in terms of cost of what it would if we paid the employees portion of the increase out of Fund 32. And based on our enrollment numbers, a good round number for that estimate is going to be about $40,000. So.
Okay. Is there any questions or direction to Tom?
Will you repeat that? Sorry, I didn't get the end.
If we do not increase the employees portion next year, and pay that out of Fund 32, that'll cost the Fund 32 account about $40,000.
I'm okay with that.
Yep.
Yeah, that's not unreasonable.
It's
Yep.
not unreasonable. Not with this
Yep.
kind of year we've had.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I don't.
It's certainly, we just wanted to follow up with you guys and make sure that was okay, and we'll go ahead and move forward with that. So, thank you.
Yeah, appreciate you looking into that, Tom, and seeing how we can make our employees' lives just a bit easier this year.
Yeah, sure. So, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, let's move on to the next item.
Item 8, report of city officials.
Okay, let's start with you, Sarah.
I don't have anything to report this morning. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, what about you, Steve?
Yes, I just wanted to congratulate our athletes. Trinity's done a great job this year on their football season. Hutch High has done a great job on their football season. I mean, they worked hard. I go to every games, if you can't imagine that. And then Central's also done a great job, and we have to congratulate our athletes and make sure we back them. Other than that, I don't have anything else.
Thank you, Steve.
Okay, John?
Nothing this morning.
Okay, Nancy, what about you?
Just commendations to Chief Beer and the members of the fire department who dealt with the wildfire over by Burton this last weekend. It looked like it certainly could have been a whole lot worse than it was. So they
Yeah.
deserve our respect, our praise, and everything else.
I
For
agree,
sure.
yes, thank you.
Okay, did you have anything else, Nancy?
Oh, no.
Okay. I just had one item I wanted to touch on, and that is the COVID situation in town. If you've been following it, we're on a pretty dangerous trajectory. Cases have tripled in less than 3 months. We have almost 3 dozen dead to this virus. And there's a sense, I was on a call with a group of business leaders earlier in the week, and there's a sense that we're not doing enough as a community to avoid another shutdown. I know the Reno County Commission right now is being asked to consider a mass gathering limit of 10. The public health officer is proposing that. I do not know if that will pass the commission. So I wanted to get a sense from all of you if there's any interest from the council in exploring mitigation restrictions should the county continue to not act on the recommendations of our health leaders.
Well, Jay, thank you for putting us on the spot.
Yeah.
Right here on TV.
I'd recommend leaving it to the county commission and the health department and their discussions. They have a lot more discussions between the two parties and have been heading this thing the whole time. So I would continue having them discuss that relationship as they have more information and more meetings within each other. And I'd hope that that council body would, decide what's best. I mean, we've been doing the same thing, wear the mask, limit exposure. I would like to see if we could get a different approach, to be honest with you, more targeted approach towards elderly and those with disabilities. I always thought that the health department and the county could come up with like a voluntary website where people could voluntarily sign up and say, hey, I'm old, I don't have much family. I don't really want to go to the grocery store, I don't really want to do this, and have a website where they can sign up, and we can have volunteers that drop off grocery for these people, and maybe pick up prescriptions or some kind of thing through the health department via website. Probably be expensive to do, but you know, if we target it to elderly and keeping them out of the stores, out of the restaurants, and out of the doctor's offices, I think it would have a far more better outcome than just limiting crowds and masks, because ultimately it's not enforceable. So people are going to do what they want anyways. But that's just my take.
When you talk about, Jade, and maybe you can clarify this, when they talk about public gatherings, do they mean public gatherings at public facilities, or do they mean public gatherings at the Walmarts of the world? Exactly, what do they mean by public gatherings?
Yeah, I think it's just, and not necessarily in a city facility. It's just in general. My understanding, these mass gathering limits, like let's say you have one of 10, it doesn't mean you can only have 10 people in any event space. It would be more of a group of 10 socially distanced from another group of 10. And this is for contract tracing purposes. That makes it easier. Well, obviously, you know, the virus hops from person to person. It needs a host. And so if you have a bigger congregation of people in close proximity, it's going to have a better opportunity to spread. And, you know, I agree with Sarah that we need some more creativity on some kind of mitigation protocols, because what we're doing isn't working now. But I don't know if instituting a limit might be one step in the right direction. I'm looking at this tool online, kind of a COVID event tool from Georgia Tech, and it showed this morning that if in Reno County, you can zoom in on a map. In Reno County, if you're in a group of 50, there's a 96% chance that someone has the virus. And if you're in a group of 10, it goes down to 47%. So we're not at this point going to be able to stop this virus unless we all just stay home on a shutdown, which no one's willing to do. But I think that there are things you can do to limit the spread. And I know that the city isn't the body that typically acts on that, but in the absence of action at the county level, a lot of cities have. Garden City has, McPherson has, Wichita has. There's several cities that have had to take action when the county hasn't. And you know, the county's meeting right now, and maybe they're making some decisions to help the situation. But I just wanted to have a conversation about, you know, should they decide not to take any further action? Are we willing to do that? And I understand the concerns about it not being enforceable, because a lot of people don't understand that we are actually still under a mask mandate. I get a lot of questions from people daily about that. And you're right, compliance is not where it needs to be, because enforcement isn't happening.
Yeah, Jade, but a lot of what I've read lately says that really it's not so much the large group super spreaders as it is the family dinner,
Yes.
the small group, the meeting with your friends. You know, a group of my friends, we've given up doing some things just simply because we know it's not smart. And I don't know what the answer is. I really don't. I tend to think that the county is the one with the legal authority. And so attempting to put something in place at the city level is problematic.
My only
Yeah,
comment on mass
go ahead.
gatherings is that I really believe firmly that private businesses have the ability and the right to establish what their limits of capacity are, and that should not be mandated at a governmental level for private businesses.
Yeah, and I don't disagree with you at all, John. I would like to see private businesses be a little bit more diligent about making sure that their employees had on a mask,
Sure.
that, when people came into the business, they say, would you please? I mean, there's a couple of places I'm probably not gonna go visit in the near future.
I just think that we just need targeted, because I think we've all been taking the approach of public in general. It's not gonna stop a virus. We need targeted plans here to help those most vulnerable of death.
Okay, well, I just wanted to get some feedback on that. I know that nothing's going to change. It's going to continue to get worse in this community if we just operate the same way and put our head in the sand. And, you know, I think as leaders, people look to us, even if it's not in our jurisdiction. Traditionally, they look to us to do something, and we're not really doing anything. And I get that it's difficult to police people's behavior, and you don't want to. I don't want to.
Well, then I would suggest we put a committee together for what could the city do to help those over the age of 65 or have pre-existing conditions.
Well, there's already a lot of protocols in place at some of these nursing homes. I mean, that's all governed by CMS, like by a whole nother body, regardless. So I'm not sure that this is only an elderly problem, because somebody's passing that on.
Well, yeah, that's why I said
To
that
the
we
elderly
need to come up with
people.
strategies to make sure that they aren't passing on.
Yeah,
Having
well, that
the
would mean
ability
not
to-
having contact with people.
Yeah, but coming up with creative ways to make that happen without them getting lonely, whether it be through windows, pickup, people sending letters so they have through the mail, because I don't think it really spreads through the mail because it has that 3-day turnaround time before it reaches that person. I just think that we need to start thinking more creatively and more targeted if we're really going to want to put an impact, because creating it at a general level, especially with the virus, it's just, we've been doing this for months. I just don't see, I mean,
Well, I also wanted to touch on, I've had several comments that about the 4A state football championships that were moved to Hutchinson because we don't have any restrictions in place as in comparison to the community where they were originally planned. And I don't know how to answer those questions, because when people come to me with these complaints and say the city isn't doing anything, we're not. So I just wanted to bring that up. I'm not clearly gonna convince anyone, but I know our understanding of this virus is incomplete, and yet we're asked to enact policy to deal with it. And I just don't think we have a whole lot more time. I mean, the time to act is now. And if we're not willing to do that, we're going to see a whole lot more problems and a whole lot more, you know, our hospital's full. So, okay, well, hopefully,
the hospital create more than 30 beds? Because I thought that we did the lockdown, lost private businesses in order to slow the curve so that the hospitals could ramp up. Why did the hospital only have 30 beds when we lost businesses, locked down, and did all that?
it's not so much a bed issue as a staffing issue. We don't have,
Didn't they
they've
lay
even moved
staff off
nurses
in the
from
middle of
other
summer?
elective procedures or from other departments. They've moved nurses from other departments. And I think that's why we're seeing the deaths, because if you remember at the beginning of this pandemic, we had one person who was on a ventilator for like 3 weeks, and so many people were tending to her, and she made it out. She made it out, and now there's just not enough staff.
Didn't they
to
lay
dedicate
staff
to
off
people.
in the summertime? When
Huh?
they laid staff off in the summertime.
And they brought them back.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think we need to just say,
I'm just saying, if you really want to do, we need to make, I think they should have ramped up staff, even if they weren't doing anything, never laid anybody off. I mean, I think really
Yeah.
this comes down to the hospitals, the county, and the health department. And if there's concerns
Okay.
with that, then we need to reach out to them.
yeah, well, when people reach out to me, I'll just say that there was no appetite on the council to do anything to address this crisis. So with that, I'm going to put it over to you, Jeff. What items do you have?
Jay, just a minute, Jay. Jade?
Mm-hmm.
Jade?
Yeah. Yeah.
Apparently you want to do, I agree with, I have people calling me that want to do something about it, and I have people calling me who don't want to do anything about it. So I mean, on one side, if we do something about it more stricter, we're going to close our businesses. We have that on our shoulders too. So
I don't think
go
that's
ahead.
necessarily the case, Steve. I don't want to see businesses shut down. I don't think we're doing enough now to prevent another shutdown. That's my concern.
Okay,
If we don't get a handle on it, the legislature is going to shut us down.
Right, right. What do you want to do? What do you see doing? Talk.
I just want to have a conversation. If the county chooses not to move forward, they could be having a meeting right now and saying, we're going to institute a 10-person mass gathering limit. And that's great. I don't even know if that's the right choice, because as Nancy mentioned, a lot of these small group gatherings are what is causing the outbreak. I guess I would just implore people to do the right thing and stay home if you can. Don't gather in groups. Can we just chill for a couple weeks so that maybe we can have Christmas with our families? Because I'm not going to do anything for Thanksgiving, and that bums me out. But I think it's the right choice.
So it's really what we need to do, Jade, is collectively here is to pass a resolution that reinforces what we have been reading and hearing about requiring masks and social distancing and
Limiting.
those basic 5 or 6 elements, and to make that an official resolution from the city of Hutchinson. I mean, is that what you're looking for?
Well, I think that would be a start. Just imploring everyone in the community to make personal choices that increase safety and not turn a blind eye.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think any of us can argue with that. I just am concerned about trying to set, I don't want to get into setting fines
No, I don't
at
want
this
to get into that
point
or
in time.
Capacity businesses and so on. No, I don't want to get into any of that.
Okay.
I just think that's unmanageable.
So if something could be drafted that is an official position of the city of Hutchinson that could be communicated to various agencies throughout Reno County and the state, that at least we've taken some action that shows our concern without getting into the minutia of all the various opinions of what capacity really should mean.
Well, I think even if you go back and look at the COVID challenge, that 10-day thing, the things that they listed on that would be certainly applicable.
Yeah, I mean, I thought that was well said and well thought out.
There's an effort being led right now by the outside agencies in the city that is very much in tune and aligned with this discussion we're having, and they are raising awareness, and there's a lobbying component also to what they're doing. They're putting a little pressure on the county elected officials. And once that became part of their mission or their focus, we retreated, because that's frankly not our business, not as city staff members, to lobby county elected officials. They know their business and they know it well. So we pulled back and retracted on that, but there is a piece that's being offered to us. It's being spearheaded by the chamber, and it's for billboards in conjunction with Luminous Neon. They have a handful of billboards available. I don't know if there's a huge profit motive here on their part. They're showing $300 per billboard for an awareness campaign. It would come complete with city logo, county logo. And it looks like we've already got sponsorships at the $300 level from the Chamber, United Way, HCF, Cosmosphere, HRHS Hospital, Clinic. So there's slots here, if I'm guessing, maybe 3 or 4 more slots. I was going to, of course, contribute and commit to the $300 level, and that would be for one. But if you wanted to go bigger on this and pick up the remaining 3 or 4 billboards, maybe that's a message that would cultivate this interest. At least it'd be a start, and you wouldn't have to arrest anybody to do it.
Yeah.
That might be something to consider.
Yeah, and I certainly was not advocating for arresting people. I think we have too many laws on the books right now. I just think we need a stronger message. And if you think if that's what the governing body thinks is effective and what we're willing to do, then something's better than nothing.
I think that would be appropriate.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay.
I'll relay that message.
Thank you.
to the group and let them know that we'll make that
Okay.
commitment.
Thank you. And that's all I had.
Thanks, Mayor. At the last meeting, we discussed what I typically call elected officials leadership training. It would be a training session that would be offered. Typically, that's done in a junket series, maybe 1 or 2 days. I have seen it done in as little as 1 day, but it is a full day typically when you do it that way. And that is a session that provides fundamentals of governance and leadership to newly elected officials. And if there was a desire, and it is beneficial, it is something that you guys would probably find value in. I think you guys may have already gone through some series that are similar to this, so I don't want to reinvent the process that you've already gone through. But if there was interest on the part of our newly electeds that you would commit to a full Saturday perhaps, I think it's something we could look into. I have put in front of your seats some names of Kansas providers that typically do this that I'm familiar with. Some of these prices get pretty outrageous. You'll see some in the $50,000 to $80,000 range. That's just, in my mind, absolutely off the limits. Some of them are a little bit more affordable.
At these prices, I'm not interested.
Understood, understood. Well, that's why we want to have the discussion to see if, number one, as you'll see enumerated here, are you guys willing to commit to a 6 to 8 hour period on a Saturday perhaps? And if you are, is there a particular month that would work better? And if the answer to that is affirmative, then we would propose the following agencies for consultation and RFP. So if that's a discussion you guys would like to have, I think it's pretty typical for governing bodies to have this discussion periodically.
Is it really leadership training or is it more strategic planning?
It would be strategic planning, I think, especially for us, that would be a piece of it.
To me, that's where I thought we were headed.
Yeah, I think the mayor would agree. Mayor, am I right on that?
Can't we just have you and, oh, where's he at, the HR guy and us do our own local strategic planning without having the cost thousands of dollars to have someone else facilitate it?
I think we absolutely need a facilitator.
Yeah,
Well,
I
then
agree.
I'm not in for it. I'm not gonna spend that money. I'm not gonna push to spend that. This ain't the year either. I said we save every penny we got.
I'm not willing to do a strategic plan without a facilitator. I think it's not efficient, it's not effective, it's not. I just think we need an outside person to help guide that conversation.
I agree with you there, Jade, very much. I would think, however, for a 1-day session, we could find someone who is not
Oh, for sure. That's
nearly
yeah.
as expensive as what is being listed here.
Yeah.
But I agree, you've got to have a facilitator. It needs to be somebody who's not part of the organization. So,
Well, I've never done this before. My first thought was this is pretty expensive, but I think we need some training. I don't know on this kind of prices, so I'd be willing to go 6 or 8 hours to do it if we can find it affordable. Can we find anybody else other than these here? Or?
The prices shown here are reflective of prices received of another city. And
I
to be
see.
honest, their scope of services was probably different than what we would put out. I would work with the mayor so that we can get this thing aligned succinctly. And I think what you would see with a 1-day session is some limited pricing. But there is some advanced work that they would have to do in understanding our specific city. So I wouldn't expect the prices to come in, under $5,000. They're probably gonna hover somewhere in the single digits, less than what you're seeing here, but not free, that's for sure. I agree with the outside facilitator. I think if you guys do make the commitment to do this, it's always better to have someone from the outside so that it just gives a fresh lens to the discussion.
I would go as high as 6,000, but I don't think I would go anything. I'm one of the newly elected, so what you'd say would be a benefit to me. I'm just not going to do it at this price. I think we can sit together and hash things out.
Well, I think
I'm sorry.
any form of a leadership development and strategic planning sessions are good, but my basic question, this may sound a ridiculous question, but as far as what our objectives are, I guess my question is our objective to develop a strategic plan for the city council as a governing body, or is it for the city at large and all of its various departments and so on? To me, because there's a huge difference between the two.
Well, the
I would
comp
agree.
plan already pretty much
Exactly.
deals with the city and its departments
Yeah.
at large. I think in my head, I was looking more at strategic planning for the council as an entity.
That was my
Yeah,
understanding as well.
more to frame the budget conversation, because when we got into the budget earlier this year, there was a lot of, well, we don't have time to talk about shifting priorities, because we were kind of behind. And so it would be helpful to have those conversations to get on the same page about where our priorities lie before the department heads start putting together their recommendations for the budget. So we're not reinventing their budget after they've put all their work in. Does that make sense?
Yeah, my main focus would be, obviously, the future of maybe cutting expenses within the city, centralizing department, getting my 2 cents in on how are we going to cut some costs so that we don't keep kicking so much down the road every time we do the budget. What's our strategy going to be within the departments of the city and the council?
Well, then you're really getting into issues.
Yeah, totally different.
So to me, that's a different format than strategic planning for the council itself. And maybe they're intertwined. I'm not sure.
That then becomes multiple sessions, and the price tag certainly goes up.
Yeah.
That's probably a 4 or 5 part session.
That's
It's a
not-
whole different animal.
Yeah, that is. It's totally different.
And some
Well-
people do that. Some cities do that.
So if it's council priorities versus council procedural governing policies, to me, it's a little nebulous until you begin to pinpoint it.
Well, the reality is none of us are going to particularly want to gather for a 6 to 8 hour session right now.
Yeah.
For sure.
So I mean,
Yeah.
we're kind of in a position where even if we say, okay, we're going to do this in January, you're already going to, if we're talking budget issues, they're going to have already started beginning that planning, so it almost becomes moot.
Well, I've learned over the years that these sessions are kind of messy. I mean, they really are.
Yeah.
They're not absolutely structured, and that's probably the way it ought to be, but they are kind of messy. But in the end, through a facilitator, and it gives you some guidance, Jeff, and gives us the benefit of all of our collective thinking.
Well,
I mean, speed limits, steel poles. I mean, if we can get those priorities adopted at the top of the list.
Why are we
and
spending so
25
much
mile
money
an
on
hour
the
speed
golf
limits,
course?
Those are 3. If there's a second to that, we can move on.
Why are we spending so much money on the golf course?
I second that. John will go on and go ahead and do it. I've never been to one of these, and once I do it, then I'll have a more opinion about it.
Do we have like a local facilitator that could just help facilitate? I mean, or 6,000?
We do. We have several. There's several. I don't know that they specialize in municipal government, which might not be as helpful. Jeff might have some thoughts on that.
Yeah, I want to avoid agency capture. I know there's a lot of agencies out there that would probably come running at the opportunity to give us guidance where we need to be in the next 5 to 10 years. I think you probably want it to be somebody that specializes in government type work.
Yeah, I do.
No offense to outside agencies. I think they all have their mission statements too, but we do intertwine with a lot of those people out there that would probably offer that. And I think I heard, Sarah, did you mention $6,000?
6,000.
Upper limit?
That's my limit.
So if it was higher than 6,000 and it got approved, you probably wouldn't attend, would be my guess. And I think it's very important that the new people coming in attend if we're going to do it.
I mean, if you're going to pay for it, I suppose I'd have to attend, but I'm not going to agree with it.
Not trying to put you on the spot at all. But,
I would attend if we're going to pay it.
Understood. So
that's the theme this morning. Everybody on the spot.
These parameters are helpful to me going forward. And Steve, what we would do, we'd put an RFP out once we kind of formulate this, tighten it up a little bit, put it out for pricing, and then bring it back to you all to make a selection as to which group you ultimately want to go with, because there will still be some variability at that time. We'd bring
Okay.
it back.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor, that's all I have. I'll gladly rest for questions. Thank you.
Okay, are there further comments or any other items you want to bring up before we adjourn?
Yeah, Mayor, you look like a pilot to me.
I know, it's my fancy headphones. You're not the first person who's told me that.
I will move we adjourn.
Second.
Okay, please call the roll.
Dave Line?
Yes.
Soldner?
Yes.
Bagwell?
Yes.
Garza?
Yes.
Tyra Stickhollow?
Yes, thank you all.
Thank you.
Bye.